Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Esquire Coaching Radio, where we help attorneys achieve unparalleled personal and professional success. And now here's your host, Ann Jenrat Thomas.
Hello, and welcome everyone to the premiere episode of Esquire Coaching Radio. My name's Ann Jenrat Thomas, and I'm the founder of Esquire Coaching. We are a coaching and consulting firm that is dedicated to attorney success, whole life attorney success. And today, I am so excited to be here with Kimberly Fernandez. And before I ask Kimberly to speak, I just have to let you know that Kimberly is just an amazing coach. She is she's a passionate executive coach, and she's the founder of Kcaptivates. She thrives on bringing her sassy, enchanting, and irresistible charm to help others find their style of captivation within themselves. As a Nuyorican with her BS from NYU, and raised along the borders of Brooklyn and Queens, Kimberly teaches the art of captivation. She coaches people on how to bewitch others so that they can have power over their colleagues at work, their lovers, and even their kids. Kimberly helps them find their sazon, their sofrito, their spice, their flavor within, and transform this into a powerful ingredient in their lives. Why I wanted to bring Kimberly on is because today she is going to talk to you about how to captivate your audience. Far too long, one of the biggest concerns that we hear among professionals and among lay people is that lawyers are lackluster. We're boring. And so, Kimberly, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being our inaugural guest.
Thank you so much, Anne. I am so excited to be able to share and be available to make a difference within all these successful lawyers who are doing so well and are making a difference in the world and just taking that to another level.
Absolutely. So I am so curious. Tell me a little bit about what is the art of captivation? What does that mean?
Well, the art of captivation is just really exuding the essence of who you truly are, being authentic and genuine, taking what makes you unique and really embracing your life within yourself in such a way that it's contagious, it's passionate, it's disarming. So that's the art of captivation, is just having individuals completely engaged with you, present, and only hearing, seeing, or just being with you in such a way that there's just a clear communication and people get you.
So I know that you work with a lot of different professionals, not just attorneys, but, financial advisors and so forth. Talk to us a little bit about how your work, how your influence in helping them become more captivating. What kind of results do you see?
Well, the results are, taking the intellectual capital, what people know. What happens is when individuals are, they're senior in a position and an industry, and they're highly revered, there at times is a comfortability in the language, in the jargon, and there's an oversight of understanding that there are other people that really don't understand what is being said, but it's a language that the individual's so used to speaking in their day in, day out work that when they're in front of a client or they're amongst their friends from different industries, speaking to them, and they don't realize they're not reaching them, and they then go home wondering, what happened? What's the disconnect? So the results are, while coaching them, it's really making sure that they're even aware that this is present, whether that is the case, and that most of the time is the case. And so I get to be their rear view mirror in the car. They're driving it, but I get to be the rear view mirror and the side view mirror and just really reflect to them that maybe how they're communicating something, I, not in that industry, wouldn't get it, wouldn't understand, or tweaking where their body or their voice can be enhanced or freed so that there is an exchange in energy and there is truth rather than the individual feeling a need to present or a need to speak at versus speaking to someone. And so the result...
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's such a common thing that we as human beings don't realize. It could be due to nerves that we have, or it could be just that commitment to really win the case or win the client or make sure that they really get that we are elites in our field. And then what happens is, though, in all of that, there are the audience that all of this information or all of this passion is miscommunicated or misinterpreted. And so with coaching and guiding and then being the mirror and being the safe place where someone can come out and share their presentation or share their insight with me as if I am the intended audience, I can then take it from the different angles and say, okay, this was my interpretation. What are you meaning by that? Or I noticed, if we're in person together, I've had the honor of being mentored and trained by Dina Levy, acting theater studio, Dina Levy herself, who's highly revered in the acting industry for 25 years. She's been phenomenal, as well as all of her teachers, in really helping me cultivate the art of listening to behavior, listening to body language. As we know, there's so many studies said that we say more with our body and our intonation of our voice than we do with the actual words.
Oh, that's so true. That's true. I want to step back a moment because you hit on something that I think is really important for lawyers to understand, and that's this issue about jargon, and in particular how when we continuously use jargon that we actually hold potential clients or our existing clients or prospects, we hold them at a distance and really do not make it an inviting environment. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what are some ways for lawyers who may not even realize, they're just citing Latin phrases that we commonly use in the law on the regular, and they might not even realize that they're speaking in a way that's putting people off. What tips would you have for an attorney to become more aware about the fact that they are using jargon and how to overcome that?
Oh, this is so much fun. My number one top, and this will knock you off your seat, but is there is nothing like speaking to a child. Speaking to an elementary or middle school child as if they're your audience and seeing what their response is. They are so tapped and tuned in and turned on by being able to add value. They have no filter. They're quick to ask the question that you want them to ask, because then that is your gauge as to whether you're really going to be able to reach an audience who's not an expert in this field. And is the intention really being exuded by how you're being? So it's really interesting with practice about surrounding yourselves with a different age group. Actually, that is really number one tip. Another tip I would say, it's really wonderful to record yourself. And now with such accessibility to iPads and iPhones and all this technology, you would be so surprised at what your perception is of how you're communicating versus what you're really delivering.
Wow, that's really powerful. And I think also it's making me think about how a lot of lawyers are going out there now. We're trying to drum up business so everybody knows that they should have an elevator pitch. One thing that I'm taking away from what you're saying is, how is the elevator pitch even? How is it that as you introduce what you do as an attorney. How is that landing? And that might be a great thing to practice with different age groups or youngsters, and even to record yourself and observe that. So I love those tips. Those are great.
Thank you.
So I want to read something that you had written, and I think that this is pretty powerful. You talk about captivation is about being spellbound. It's about showing vulnerability and your strength because that's real. It's taking your audience from 0 to 100 in a heartbeat. It's about tapping into the full range of who you are instead of having a mono style. So one thing that struck me about this statement is vulnerability. Could you please talk to our audience about why vulnerability is important?
Absolutely. I will first start with what is vulnerability. And the reason why I say that is everyone has their own definition of certain words or their own perception of certain words. And what I found through my coaching career is really being aware of how people picture certain words, because then the message is lost. Vulnerability is commonly mistaken as seeing somebody with tears in their eyes.
That's so true. And that's, I think, why so many lawyers get afraid of being vulnerable. It's like it's a taboo word. So thanks for clarifying. So what exactly is then vulnerability?
Vulnerability is being naked. Being naked in respects to your willingness to be versus your thoughts of I have to be a certain way rather than just being yourself, being true to who you really are and trusting that that's what people want to see. That is actually what has an elevator pitch work. It's not the words behind the elevator pitch. It's not honestly, the length of the elevator pitch. It's more about, did you connect with that individual? And the way the connection, we throw words like connection around and energy and so forth, but the way that's even generated is through really tapping into your true self. And that is what vulnerability is the willingness to allow people to see into you rather than having the guards up. And what happens is in industries such as legal or insurance, all these, financial banking and so forth, we don't realize how many times we're actually acting. We've learned how to adapt and really present ourselves in such a way where individuals we think will get us better versus just being who we are. And so vulnerability is being able to shed those layers and those walls and being willing to allow individuals to really see your heart. And that doesn't necessarily mean in a way that is sad or distraught. Vulnerability is passionate.
I love
it's
that.
It's when you're vulnerable that you can really exude your passion, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true, and it's interesting because, I think this is scary territory for a lot of lawyers. I really do. I think being naked or being authentic and not putting on a show can be extremely scary for lawyers. So a couple of things that are coming to mind is, an associate that wants to make partner and wants to make sure that they fit into the firm culture and maybe doesn't feel like there's space for them to really be authentic. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who might fear that being who they really are could be a detriment, whether it's saying, oh, well, maybe my potential clients or my existing clients won't think that I know the answer and they're coming to me for the answer, or whether it's something like what I just said about an associate wanting to fit into a firm culture. But what advice would you have to say about dealing with that fear?
Well, at the end of the day, we're all human, and the fear will always be there, likely. The more you stretch and the more we take risk in life, the minimization of fear can exist. But it's like these famous artists who go in front of thousands and thousands of individuals in a concert touring around the world, and most people are shocked that the fear is still there, that the nerves are still there right before. So I think the key is to really be welcoming of that fear, but being able to stretch and proceed anyway, and really understanding that those who are meant to will respect you as a person because you're being honest. They may not like it, but there's something to be said about having someone be real.
That's true. And frankly, as you're talking, one thing that's occurring to me is, at Esquire Coaching, we really encourage whole life success. We want you to be satisfied and, successful. And I think that if you're fake, if you feel afraid to truly be yourself, well, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of that limits your joy. That limits your ability to have job satisfaction, etc. So I think you're really, even though it may be difficult, what I'm hearing you say is almost like feel the fear and do it anyway.
And I'll add to that. So one of the things I will say is, the pressure and all of that you kind of pulled in. One of the things to keep in mind is that the energy being spent on the fear is energy not being spent on moving forward with something that's going to enhance your well-being, whether it be in love, whether it be in your relationships with family and friends, or relationships within the firm or organization that you're working with that will help have your vision come to life, your dreams, your goals, your successes. And, what I would like to add what I previously said in respect to do it anyway, listen, they always say it takes a village to build a family, right? And so with that being said, my addition to that, I would say have individuals that you truly like, with no hesitation, with no doubt, unquestionably, have your team of individuals that can support you when those moments of breakdown, vulnerability come up, the moments where it feels that you're disempowered, that you could go into that office or you can call that person when you walk out of the building and really be able to have your experience in that moment and trust that you're not being judged and it's not going to impact their perception of your ability as a professional. And breathe and know that I would definitely recommend 5 trusted individuals, and not necessarily 5 trusted individuals in the same profession, but definitely diversify it. I would really encourage individuals, for me personally, I have more than 5. And, what I found really funny was I will refer back to Lisa Nichols. I'm not sure if everyone knows who Lisa Nichols is, but she is a really well-renowned public speaker. She was on the DVD of The Secret, and she's also a coach. And she said that she felt like she wasn't up to speed when she realized that Oprah had more than one coach. She had like almost 17 to 20 coaches. And although friends aren't necessarily maybe trained coaches, but they are friends. They have the ability to listen, to relate, and many people find their niche of coaching by being a friend. They've been doing it organically for so long, and then they realize that it's a profession that they could get trained at. And so with that being said, I would highly encourage individuals to add to their toolkit and their resources a diverse pool of individuals that they can trust unequivocally, like no matter what, they can trust them and have someone on site, have someone off site, have someone from childhood, and have someone that's 10 steps ahead of you.
Oh, that's great advice. That's great advice. So now I want to ask, what would you tell an attorney to be able to be more captivating in their presentations, in their interactions? How can a person be more captivating?
Wow, that's a loaded question. In respect to, it can be so subjective to an individual. There are individuals who are captivating through their silence because their ability to just be without saying a word or moving is just phenomenal. And there are others that move all around the room while making sure that they make eye contact. And so this is why, as a coach, it's customized to that individual when I'm working with someone to see what is their X factor in communication. And so it can look so many different ways. It really can. What I will definitely encourage individuals to do when they're, in a room, in a courtroom, or they're among maybe a potential client, to definitely breathe and take an opportunity to take in the ambiance, take in the individuals, really tap into their physical sensations and see how others are being in that moment. What is their body saying? What are their tones of voice saying? And just take it as information versus as what is, because there's so many individuals that can present themselves in such a way and have a totally different thought process in their head, right? So it's all information, but it's information that once attuned to, as a lawyer, you can respond accordingly. It's listening to your audience in a deeper level, not just by hearing them, but being and feeling them.
So is there a way, because I think what you're talking about is really important, for lawyers to get that you have to be very present with the people you're involved with, especially clients, especially if you happen to be a litigator, you want to be present so that you're able to connect with the jury in a better way or the judge in a better way. There's just a lot of different facets here. So is there another way to really hit home this idea about listening deeply? I'm not even quite sure how to ask that, but I guess I just want to make sure that folks understand how important this particular quality is, and if you have any insights you can share about how they could learn to listen more deeply.
Well, I would say it definitely takes the willingness to just continue to have the engagement with a diverse pool of individuals and constantly utilize individuals so that they can support you with making sure that you're being understood and seeing how they're responding when you're doing maybe mock trials. Create a mock trial.
Practice, really get in front of people and just practice and get feedback and watch how watch how it lands. That's what I'm really getting from what you're saying. Watch how it lands.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone loves The Good Wife or, CSI or Law and Order. And, these are hit shows for a reason. because of the conflict and the excitement and the stakes that are there. So I would really confidently say that lawyers can have a great opportunity to play and invite individuals into, let's say, their home and stage it and really just, create a case from nothing, create something that has no, no violation of this, of confidentiality or that can be taken anywhere that it shouldn't, and really just start having fun with, and that in itself, there's so many value adds to that, where you're keeping in relationship with family and friends because now they feel engaged and involved and valued and their voice matters, and it truly does, because they're the best way to get feedback, and they likely, because they're doing something different and fun, will be able to respond in such a way that they have the best interest for you at heart. And so I would just be really outrageous with it and, maybe make a game, have teams of lawyers and see, make a game and see which one, can speak the best in layman's terms and still win.
This is great. So we have only a few minutes left before the end of our show, and I want to just open up the lines to see if any of our listeners have questions. So if you haven't already, call in 347-838-8719, and if you have a question for Kimberly, please press 1, and that will connect you with me, and we'll get you on the line. So while I'm waiting to see if anybody has a question, just a quick, you mentioned that you have you had done some acting work. So any quick tips from the acting realm that you think could be applied for lawyers to help them up-level their game?
Oh, quick tip is so simple. It's too simple. It sounds ridiculous. Just breathe. I mean, and it sounds so like, wow, really? But geez, as in the fast pace that we live in these days, and how much we're managing and multitasking, and with the interesting resources or lack of, whether you're a lawyer or another professional or a mom and a professional, we don't realize how much we're just not breathing. And in that, we aren't giving ourselves the fuel to emote. And so one of the things I've learned through, pursuing the art of acting and learning that and having fun with it is breathing and taking a moment to just pause.
I love it.
That's where that's the simple one.
That's fantastic. So I think I believe we have one caller on the line, so I'm just going to unmute the button. So hold on one second. Caller from area code 646. You're live if you have a question.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, welcome. What's your name?
Jeanette.
Jeanette, do you have a question for Kimberly?
Yes. I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase it. How is it that, how can you tell whether or not when you're in the middle of presenting a project or pitching it, if you are captivating your audience, and if you're not, how can you turn that around or read signs to see if it needs to be turned around?
Great question. Thanks, Jeanette.
Well, I would say if they're not looking at you and they're fully engaged in something else, that's definitely an indicator. At times, they're maybe slouching or I think a lot can be said by looking into someone's eyes and really not looking at the eyes, but really looking into the eyes. Having that will within yourself to draw eye contact, kind of like when we were in our dating days. And sometimes you know, when you're working a room and there's someone that you're interested in and attracted to, and you're just like, wow, I really like that person, and you're just really willing them to look at you so you can make that eye contact. That is definitely a huge indicator as to their engagement in captivation, or whether you're captivating them and you're holding their attention. And so that is definitely, it's really interesting how something so relative to other factors in life, right, can be utilized when presenting.
Great answer, Kimberly. You know, I'm sorry, it's now time to, we are out of time for the show. So, Kimberly, will you please let our audience know how they can connect with you?
Sure. I can be reached at 347-369-4141. That's 347-369-4141. Or I can be emailed at K, like Kimberly, the word Captivates, CAPTIVATES.com.
Okay, great. Great. This was so wonderful. Thank you so much for being our first guest. We want to invite everyone to come back and listen. Next week, we have Yessi Murillo Gual, who is going to talk to us in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, how to support Latino lawyers in particular. Thanks so much. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, Esquire Coaching. See you next week.